a lot of questions, and I interact with the audience, so I want to ask you a few questions to start off, just so I got an idea of who I'm dealing with here. What I'm dealing with. How many of you have ever heard of a man named John Stark? Oh, about half here. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, how many of you ever heard of a man named Seth Warner? Okay. How about have you ever heard of a man named Frederick Baum? How about a man named Heinrich Werner? Okay, that's good. Huh? You have? Good German name, yeah. Okay. How many of you ever been to Vermont? How many of you been to Bennington, Vermont? How many of you been to the Bennington Monument in Bennington, Vermont? How many been up in it? I don't want to talk to you. Last two times we went, first time we went, the elevator was broken. That was the beginning of August. 2 days before we were going to go in October, they got it fixed. So I'm like, oh good, I can go up in it. We get there in the afternoon, about noontime, 1 o'clock. They took 2.5 trips up and it broke again. So this is not going to be fixed being told the 31st, so they're done for the year. So it might be next year. But anyways, I've done a model of the Bennington Monument. So if you want to know what I'm talking about, this is a model of what this looks like. Now this is the white stuff. We won't talk about this right now, but this is coming. So John Stark in the Battle of Bennington. We're going to start back. I'm not going to give you a whole life story on John Stark. I do have some books up here. Please don't take them. You may look and write the titles down, but there's a book called Stark, which is on, it's not his life story. It's the life and the wars of John Stark, and it mainly talks about his service in the French and Indian War, his service with Rogers Rangers, and of course his service in the Revolutionary War. So I'm going to start back a ways. When John Stark was a young boy, he lived in what state? Vermont. Anybody else? New Hampshire. New Hampshire. Very good. Thank you. Okay. Because there's keys to that. Why it's New Hampshire? Well, that's where he was born. He was born in 1728. Grew up there. And who do you think were the inhabitants of that land at the time? Indians. Okay, indigenous people, Native American Indians, especially a tribe called the Abenaki, which is in the northern part. Now, Vermont is known for what color mountains? Green mountains. In fact, I think it's called the Green Mountain State. New Hampshire is known for what kind of mountains? White mountains. Well, you guys are good. So John Stark knew the White Mountains, and he was in the northern part of Vermont or New Hampshire, and he did a lot of hunting, fishing, trapping. Of course, he didn't go to the local Aldi's to buy his food. Neither did his family or probably anybody else in the area. So he did a lot of this hunting and fishing and trapping. Well, one day, him and his brother's name was William, and two of their friends went up in the White Mountains, and they went fishing, hunting, and trapping, and they'd go. They didn't go just for a weekend or an overnight. They'd go where they get a lot of food that would not only provide them with food, but what else was important in that day and age that they would trade or sell? Furs, different kinds of hides and furs. So they had that, and they would take them to Albany. John Stark did not like working with the people in Albany because they tended to rip him off for what the price on the goods were worth. He didn't quite get the amount that he wanted.
Some things never change.
Albany, don't record that. So anyways, he's hunting. They're hunting, right? And it's his turn to go out and check the traps. And he goes out, and he's bending over, he's checking his traps, or he's checking his fish basket and that, and he hears when he called to his grandson, Caleb, who wrote a lot about his life. He heard what he called like a swishing or a running water sound. And he looked around. What do you think it was? Waterfall, right? No, it was 10 Abenaki Indians coming out of the brush, coming out of the woods. And of course, what are you doing here? So they took him, and they knew he had been in the area a while because they had seen smoke. They were getting ready to leave, and this was the last time they were going to check their traps and everything. So they were getting ready to head out, but they'd known they were there. They'd seen smoke from the campfire, and they asked him, where are the others? And he told them, oh, they're that way. So they went that way. In actuality, they were that way. So he's gone, but he's been gone a while. So of course his brother and his two friends are worried, where has he been? What's going on with him? And so in order to find him, what do you think they did? They what? No, they fired a gun. You're good, yes. They fired their shots. Well, the Abenaki heard that, and they, wait a minute, that's coming from that direction. So he tricked them, and they weren't too happy. But they had to wait on that. So they went toward where the shots were, and as they get closer, his brother and one of the men named Amos were on the shore walking, and the other man was in the boat on the river. And of course, these guys are on our land hunting, they're stealing our food. They immediately put their guns out. Well, John Stark went up and knocked the gun up out of their hands, and they shot, but it was up in the air. But some of the shots did hit. It hit one of the men, it hit the guy in the canoe, his boat. It actually put bullet holes in his paddle. And as they went up, they got the Amos. They killed him and scalped him. William, John Stark's brother, got away, took off running to get help. Well, the Abenaki realized that, and the chief's name was Christo. Now, does that sound like an Indian name? Christo. What do you think of when well, this is northern New Hampshire, very close to the Canadian border. A lot of French Canadians. French Canadians were what type of religion mainly? Catholic. So the Abenaki had intermingled with them for many years, so they took a lot of their names, a lot of their ways, and they intermingled it with their Abenaki lifestyle and their culture. So Christo and his men, they attacked the one, scalped him, and William took off running. Well, they took John, and they took the other man, and they were heading back up north, like to St. Jamesville, up in Quebec. And they were hunting and fishing and trapping too. So while they were going, they made these guys basically help them do this, fish and hunt and all this. Well, they got back to their village finally. This isn't like a highway drive. It's walking through hard wilderness, no trails, no easy way of getting there. So when they finally get there, there's something awaiting them. I love this. I got enough people on both sides here, and they got an aisle through the middle. So I know where I'm going with this, right? What do they call that? A gauntlet. And the gauntlet is a group of men on this side, a group of warriors on this side, and anybody that came in, they made them run the gauntlet. But before they made them run the gauntlet, they had something they had to tell the people before they did this. John Stark didn't go first. The other man, I can't remember his name. That's in my papers. But he is there, and they told him to say, "I'm going to beat up all your warriors." So what do you think they did to him when he ran down the middle of the gauntlet? They got sticks, they got clubs, they got their fists, they're hitting him as he's running. He's trying to, you cover your head, right? You want to protect yourself. Well, he got to the end of the line. He was beaten. He passed out. Well, they gave John the good line. His line was, "I'm going to kiss all your women tonight." Wow, that would make you a little mad, but they kind of laughed at that and told him, So as he went down, started down the line, the guy had his stick, the first guy in line, and John grabs the stick out of his hand and says, "Come on," and he starts fighting all the guys. "You want to fight? Let's fight." Whoa. They like this. Because they wanted to know what kind of person you were, what your personality was. Are you a wimpy guy that's going to run from trouble or take off and hide? Or are you going to fight? Are you going to stand up to your enemy? So what they did with John Stark, they did with both of them, but basically John, what do you think they did? They killed him. No, obviously they didn't kill him. They did what? They adopted him in basically at that point. They said, "You can come with us. We're going to help you part of our tribe." There were 4 things they could have done to him. One was they could have killed him. 2, they could have sold him to the French, or they could have made him a slave, or they could have adopted him. And this was with anybody. Most of the Indian nations in the United States do this. They have what they call, like one little side note here, what they call mourning wars. Whereas if they're doing battle, or there's disease and they lose part of their people, they go on these mourning wars where they go into other tribes or the white man, and they pay people to repopulate their numbers. There was a man during the Revolutionary War. He was part of the Oneida Nation. His name was Good Peter, and he lived down in Aquaga, New York. You know where that is, right? Windsor, New York. He was a chief of the Oneidas. And if we had cameras back then, we would have taken a picture of him and you would have showed somebody, this is Good Peter, or Peter White. Wow, what? He's an Indian chief? Something wrong with this picture. Good Peter was a full white man. He was a Palatine German. He was not dropping Native American blood in him, but he plucked all the hair out of his face and his head and everything, and he assimilated into the culture, and he became a chief because they adopted him in. So with John Stark, it's the same thing. They adopted him. Well, immediately they start putting him, okay, we're going to have you see what you're made of. We're going to do some work.